Sportscast SA presents Game On. Game On. South Australians' destination for everything sports. Local, national, and international sports. AFL football, soccer, basketball, golf, baseball, tennis, cricket, and any other sports played in this wide world. And we're going to have a blast doing it. So sit back, relax, and let's do this thing. Welcome to Game On.
Welcome to Game On. My name's Pete, once again joined by Malcolm in the studio, and we didn't have a guest last week, so we can't talk about that. But let's get straight into it. Straight into it today, mate.
Around the grounds.
We're going to have a little bit of a look at the soccer, some SANFL, some tennis, but we're going to kick off with the AFL, mate.
Yeah, so round one, some huge games, first up, so Carlton and Richmond, obviously Collingwood and Geelong.
Yep.
I think Port Brisbane will be a good game here.
Yeah, I don't think there's too many weaknesses in round one. It's actually quite an interesting round.
Yeah, it's actually a chance. They're saying it's a chance to break the attendance record. So,
yep.
Yeah.
All right, mate. Well, let's go into a bit of tipping for round one. We've obviously got some pretty good matches. Let's go with Carlton and Richmond.
I'll go Richmond.
Yeah, it's hard as a Carlton man to say Richmond as well, but I think they might just get over the line, mate.
Oh, I think it'll be a very good game. McKay and Charlie Curnow up forward. The Twin Towers could be the damage, but yeah, Taranto and Hopper giving them that bit more balance around the ball.
Yeah, just probably for me as well, gets them over the line. Curnow and McKay were very, very good last year. Teaming up, you'd expect that they'd be pretty good, but I just think Richmond are just above them, so we both pick Richmond.
Yeah, but I still certainly wouldn't be surprised. I think that's a 50-50 game.
Absolutely. All right, Geelong-Collingwood on the Friday night, mate.
Yeah, I've gone Geelong.
Yeah, I've gone Geelong as well. I think they'll be around the mark once again, and really they've added some youth to their squad as well. I mean, you think of them as an ageing squad, but they've added a little bit of youth, and I think they can only just go from strength to strength.
Yeah, the bizarre bit to get both from Gold Coast and pick 7 was crazy. Yeah, quite strange, that one.
Whoever's on their recruiting committee or draft selection committee has done very, very well there for sure. Yep. So you pick Geelong. I'll go for Geelong as well, mate. All right, on the Saturday, mate, North Melbourne, West Coast.
I'll go North Melbourne. I think it's a toss of the coin job.
Might go West Coast on this one, mate. Just for a little bit different. I think that they showed a little bit against Port, and they showed a little bit against the Crows. Although North Melbourne do have the Clarkson factor that could come in, but
toss the coin.
It is a bit of a toss of the coin. I'll go West Coast, mate.
Yep.
One we're waiting for. One of the games we're waiting for. Port and Brisbane.
I'll go Brisbane. I think Well, while I don't take too much notice of pre-season, I think them Brisbane with Dunkley and Ashcroft just giving them that extra midfield balance and Gunston to direct their forward line, pretty hard to tip against.
They look like they've gone to another level on the basis that they're just moving the ball that little bit quicker at the moment. That could be the difference between them obviously going one step further this year or two steps further this year and maybe not.
It'll be interesting to see how they'll cope without McStay. He's the ultimate team man, the 1%ers, the factor, the block, all that side of things. And Adam's injured at the other end. So, but just really hard. While I normally go home side, it's hard to go against Brisbane.
I think Brisbane are in a little bit better place. We talked about them briefly last week, saying that, we think that they've got some of their deck chairs already in a pretty good spot, already in a row, ready to go for round one. It's no certainty against Port Adelaide, and Port could actually come out and turn it on. But you just have to favour Brisbane just for that little bit of class at the moment.
You do, but if their youth, Horn Francis and Rosie and Butters gets on top, then they're a huge chance.
They are indeed, and there'll be certainly plenty keeping an eye on that game, especially here in Adelaide. Mate, another one that's intriguing as well, and again, when I started writing out these so we could do our tips, Melbourne and the Western Bulldogs. That's another interesting match that
It's a hard game,
Yeah.
but I'll go Melbourne.
I'm going to go Melbourne too, but I don't think it's as easy as you think on paper.
Not at all.
I think the Western Bulldogs are certainly a little bit better placed than what most people give them credit for.
Especially their height and their forward line, dry weather this time of the year, no dew, all that side of things. Yeah, they're a big chance.
Bulldogs certainly fleet of foot as well, and if they can deliver the ball pretty well, yeah, it's good. But Gawn and Grundy method or experiment could come to fruition. Look, it already has during the pre-season, so it'll be interesting to see it in round one.
Yep.
Gold Coast, Sydney, mate. Finish out round one on a Saturday.
Yeah, I'll go Sydney. I'm hesitant to tip against Gold Coast up there, but yeah, I just still like all that Sydney youth.
Sydney, I think, got a little bit of a point to prove after last year's grand final. I think they'll be coming out and breathing a bit of fire. And obviously, Horse came out during the week and sort of said, Buddy's not going to be playing every game.
Yeah.
But when he does play, geez, what a handy asset to have. And yeah, I think against Gold Coast, they're just going to get over the line there, obviously, at Metricon Stadium. All right, we move on to Sunday, mate. Another big one for an Adelaide team, GWS and Adelaide Crows.
Yeah, I'll go GWS. They've had the wood over Adelaide, well and truly, and if in doubt, go the home side. So I've gone GWS, mate.
Fair enough. New coach at GWS, can lift a team early on. They've obviously gone for one captain this year in Toby Green.
Yep.
I'm going to pick Adelaide. I back them. They've
impressive.
had pretty good form so far. Yes, GWS will be looking to shut down some of their superstars, but I just see if Adelaide get it into that forward line, I just can't see them not giving up too many goals. I think they're going to score more than they give up.
Yeah, Taylor's a very good player as a key defender for GWS. Yeah, look, again, it's a toss of the coin job. So
I think you're right with GWS having the wood over Adelaide. I think they'll be pretty buoyed from their form over in WA, so they've got some good away games. Again, we don't put a lot of merit on practice games, but at the same time, I think that they've just got everything clicking in the right area, and injuries look all right at the moment. So I'll back them early on in the season to have a good win.
Wait and see.
Another one that's a bit of a toss of the coin, especially for me anyway, is Hawthorn-Essendon.
Yeah, I'll go Hawthorn. You are right. It is a toss of the coin. At this stage, I'll go Hawthorn, but I want to see the two sides picked.
All right. Well, because we're recording this on a Wednesday night,
it's a bit hard.
You've got to toss the coin on that one without a team. I just think Essendon are going to be that little bit ruthless, but I don't discount Hawthorn giving them a hell of a lot of trouble.
Yeah, it's an iffy one.
They are going to be buzzing around and causing all sorts of issues that are going to test Essendon, and they really need to get off to a good start, especially with what's happened over the last few seasons. So it is a toss of the coin.
Yeah, I'm a big chance to end up tipping Essendon in the tipping comp, but I won't see.
All right, well, for here we're saying Hawthorn.
Yep.
Done. And our last game to finish the round is St Kilda and Freo.
St Kilda just too many injuries. I'll go Freo.
I'm entirely in the same boat, mate. I think Freo were impressive last year. They have lost a couple of players through the off-season. And, I just think that they've just got that little bit more class. St Kilda, I think without the injuries, you'd have to pick them. But I don't know where they're going to get their goals from. That's my biggest worry. Yeah,
without King... I think Membry's still in doubt. So I think there's a couple others,
It's not the year that Ross Lyon would have wanted to come back to. Everything just hasn't quite gone right for him so far. And Freo just look like they're building quite nicely. I don't see them making the 8 or just outside the 8 at the moment, but I think they'll get off to a good start at round 1, obviously in Melbourne as well.
Yeah.
All right, mate. We'll leave the AFL tipping for a little bit. We'll have I haven't got this on the run sheet, but we'll have a little bit of a look at Adelaide and Port Adelaide's round 1 victories. I had a bit of a look at this on YouTube today, and we'll talk about Port Adelaide first.
Yep.
Port Adelaide round 1, 2004, playing Essendon at Footy Park. Very, very impressive scores as far as at the 15 or 16 minute mark of the first quarter. She was pretty tight. And all of a sudden, Stuart Dew and Chad Corn stepped up.
Yeah, Stewie Dew certainly had...
that raking left foot was just impressive, wasn't it?
Yep.
Obviously, Port Adelaide getting off to a very good start in their premiership. Well, it ended up being their premiership year. Yeah. Very, very good. I think they they won by about 15 or 16 goals there. So, it was a very impressive start to the season for Port Adelaide. And, some names there that obviously have gone on to do some pretty good things, and that Port Premiership year has actually produced a few coaches along the way as well.
Yeah, it's
That's
funny
the other thing.
Funny how that seems to happen from a premiership side.
Because Brisbane have done it.
Hardwick, Kingsley.
Yeah.
It's been a few around the
Jews
traps.
there. As you said, Hardwick. Then you go to Brisbane, you look at Voss and who else is in there? The Scotts, both the Scott brothers. So, yeah, that period has actually formed a lot of the coaching structures for what's gone on in previous years.
Rocket played up in Brisbane as well.
Absolutely. And then we move on to Adelaide, round one. Their best round one victory was actually their first game in the AFL against Hawthorn. Round one, Footy Park. Yeah, everything went well that night, didn't they?
It was crazy night. It was funny too, just happened to walk out of the leg trap. Bizarrely then, Hawthorn walked from the leg trap through the car park. Imagine that nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
So just by fluke, I've ended up walking through, just chatting away to Matty Robberin. No one said a word to us.
Yep.
Matty's actually been interviewed on a Where Are They Now since.
Yes.
And they said about the abuse to Hawthorn. He said, I didn't really cop it because I was just chatting away to Malcolm. So, yeah.
It's all good.
Yeah,
it was all good. Wow, what a night for them to start their AFL career. I mean, you've heard some of the players talk about how it just elevated them to a whole new level. We spoke with Rocket Maynard on our podcast here, who gave a brief summation of what happened on that night. And he, as you said, he was in the leading goal kickers at the end of round one. And, watching some of the YouTube footage, sneaking forward there and just dobbling them from 50. And, looked a class above that night.
Big couple of weeks for Rocket. Plays in the trial game against Essendon with the illustrious Cheryl up in the grandstand, absolutely panicking.
Petrified he's going to get injured, yes.
Married the next day, so no honeymoon,
yes.
Bang, and then dominates 5 nights later, kicking 4 goals from her back pocket.
Mate, you have a look at some of the players from that first round. McGuinness, McDermott, both Jarmans. Obviously, Darren was playing for Hawthorn on that night, but still reasonably influential. McIntyre, Klug, who else? Marshall, Maynard, which we've talked about. Eddie Hocking. There was a name that popped up there that certainly did his little bit as well. And wow, what a way to start your AFL career.
David Marshall, I still say if I'm picking my best ever Crows side,
yes,
and picking specialist wingman,
yes,
he's still there. And it was just a shame, and it was staggering that AFL recruiters had ignored him for so long. And I wish he'd gone another year. But
just watching the highlights, as I said, wanted to talk about it tonight on the podcast, but just watching the highlight, the ball was zipping around left, right,
so
centre, and it was so clean.
Yeah,
everything seemed to sort of bounce the Crows' way, but you sort of make your own luck in those situations. And wow, what a way to get off to the start. So, hoping round one for both Port Adelaide and Adelaide along those lines for round one. I think Port have got a little bit of a tougher chance of doing it, and the Crows have got a pretty tough gig up in GWS. But, geez, if they can take a little bit of inspiration from that first round, well, then who knows what might happen.
Yes, that was an incredible night.
It certainly was. All right, match of the round one. Which one are you going with?
If I have to, I'm probably going Geelong Collingwood if I'm absolutely forced.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's not a bad one to pick. I'm actually really interested in the Port Brisbane one, to be honest with you, because from a point of view of whoever loses this game, there's going to be a few knocks on the door Monday morning to go, hey, what's going on? I don't think it's justified, round one, but I do think that
I think
the pressure starts to build.
I think Port are under a bit more heat than Brisbane.
Yep.
At the moment.
And Fagan's obviously signed for 2 more years, so takes a little bit of the pressure off there, whereas at the moment, Kenny, putting all talks off until August, September, which the club's already come out and said as well. So, I think those are probably the 2 best games for round one. So we'll keep a bit of an eye on that one there, and we've got our tips, and we'll put them on our Facebook page, and please follow along.
Yeah, have a bit of fun.
Have a bit of fun for sure. All right, mate, and just to finish off with the AFL for the first around the grounds tonight is the incentive for teams to compete for record prize money across both the men's and women's competition.
I
think it's a good concept.
I'm not sure on it. I think round one, teams are up and buzzing. Just purely round one. It's the end of trials. It goes up a beat anyway. I don't really reckon it's necessary.
Without women's footy playing 22 rounds, or 23 rounds, it could be. I know that they're offsetting the points to counteract that, but I think until you get both men's and women's playing 23 rounds, I'm not 100% sold on it. I think it's a great concept idea.
Yeah, I'm not.
But I'm not 100% sold on it. Yeah. All right, we'll leave it there, mate. We'll move on.
Yeah, the baseball, Australia, you little beauty.
Absolutely. We've talked about baseball here quite a bit, but more on the local level for the Adelaide Giants, who do in fact have a few representatives playing in the Baseball Classic at the moment. We've actually made the quarterfinals, mate.
First ever time.
Yes.
The illustrious Daryl Harper was following it religiously at Richmond at Hisense Arena on Saturday. That was more exciting than the trial game, actually. So there's been some great results. It's, the first round Australia just got up 8-7 over Republic Korea.
Yes.
Hammered China, actually got the mercy rule there.
Yes. 12-2, I think it was, yeah.
Yep. Went down, got beaten convincingly by Japan, who topped our group.
Which I don't think was all that bad, if that makes sense. 7-1, the score doesn't look so good, but they were in that game for quite a long time. Yep.
And then beat Czech Republic, so we finished second in our group. Fantastic. Cuba awaits. Look, it's a bonus, anything going forward. It's certainly the biggest, most successful Australian baseball championship. So, yeah, all the best.
Absolutely. Japan topping the stage with 4 wins, no losses. Australia with 3 wins, 1 loss, which we talked about there. Korea finishing 2-2, Czech Republic 1-3, and China 0-4. Mate, I think when the draw came out, the pool that we're in was always going to be pretty tough, but gee, we've risen to the occasion, and we get a bit of a chance to have a bit of a free hit at Cuba here.
Yeah.
And I think that's how they've got to play it. Cuba finished top of their table in Pool A, but just looking over the scores in Pool A and watching some of the games, Cuba actually finished with 2 wins, 2 losses. But guess what? Italy finished with 2 wins, 2 losses. Netherlands finished with 2 wins, 2 losses. Panama finished with 2 wins, 2 losses. And the Chinese Taipei finished with 2 wins, 2 losses as well. So it's not great form from each team because it's sort of shared around. And a couple of those teams you wouldn't exactly say are baseball nuts, especially say Italy and Netherlands. And yet they still finished 2-2. So I think Australia have got a great chance to do this. So we send out our best wishes, and if we get through to a semi-final, I think there's going to be a hell of a lot of people in the baseball field around here that are going to be very, very excited.
You might be able to hear it from across the road from East Torrens.
East Torrens, yes. Yeah, the Red Sox over the road there, so you never know. All right, mate, we move on to cricket. The final test in India, sort of a little bit of a fizzer in the end.
We go from 3 absolute Bunsen burners to a road. A Karen Rolton special, Nelly. Disappointing. Look, quite angry about the series overall. Disappointed with the lead-up and McDonald not to admit that we got it wrong. Then the pitch is prepared. The farcical bit for the pitch for the left-handers. India do whatever they like.
Yep.
We've spoken about that. It was farcical. So, a bit of a bitter taste for the thing. Look, we now play them at the Oval, not Lords. Play at the Oval in the World Championship final. So,
What do we take away from this series? I mean, yes, the pitches were a contentious talking point for us in our last couple of episodes, but also a lot of the media around the place. It looked like they were doing everything in the first couple of tests to make sure that ball spun at right angles. And both teams obviously had to play it, and our spinners certainly bowled pretty well to the conditions. We didn't bat as well to the conditions as what India did. And then the last test where, there wasn't a whole lot on the game apart from that, we needed to be in it to try and get into the final of the World Test final.
It was just trying to draw the series.
Correct, and that's why I think that the pitch ended up being a bit of a road. It was as hard as a rock.
Look, probably disappointed that Kuhnemann didn't go in the first place. Luke Key, it's almost a law that on a wicket which is going to turn square, you want a left arm orthodox, and that really hurt us in the first test not having that.
Yes.
And so, look, and picking teams from the nets, Travis Head missing out, Renshaw playing. There's been some crazy decisions.
Well, Steve Smith comes out in his last press conference and said, we sort of take this as a little bit of a draw as far as the season goes. And yes, they got better and better as the season went, but that reverts back to our point we made a couple of weeks ago. Yeah. If you're not playing trial games or you're not playing practice matches, warm-up games in the country you're playing against, it's going to cause some issues, especially in the first test, maybe the first two tests, and that's exactly what happened here.
I'm still shaking my head in disbelief for that.
So selection and also trial games or practice games, practice matches.
I know they
exactly
say India will then prepare a green deck, and it's nothing like the things, but surely just purely being out, not on the nets, and playing in the conditions, in the weather and India and all that.
Yes.
That's far better than nets in Sydney. I'm sorry, that was crazy.
Picking on net form just seemed like a bit of a head scratcher. I'm not as much of a cricket nut as what you are, and even I was scratching my head. So very, very interesting. All right, mate, we'll take a little bit of a break. When we come back after the break, we'll talk about some of the Adelaide United, a few SANFL games, trial games on the weekend, and some tennis.
You're listening to the Game On Podcast. We'll be right back after this short break. Around the grounds.
And we're going to have a look at the soccer, mate.
Adelaide United. Go you Reds.
Mate, very impressive win against the Newcastle Jets. I think that's 4 out of the last 5 with a draw in between.
Yeah.
And scoring prolifically at the moment.
Certainly creating plenty of goal-scoring opportunities. Another 4-2 win. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, okay, a little bit disappointing goals, but they're certainly scoring and, yeah, looking really dangerous. Absolutely. They're now in second spot. Big game against Wellington Phoenix on Friday night here.
At Cooper Stadium, yep.
Yeah. So another win would consolidate second spot.
Sky's the limit there for Adelaide United. They seem to be coming into some very, very good form at this time of the year.
Yeah, it's go you Reds and wait and see.
Absolutely. If you can get down to Cooper Stadium on Friday night, kickoff is at 7:15. We've had Mary on the podcast a few times, and she'd be certainly happy to see you down the Red supporters' end, supporting Adelaide United, and hopefully we can get a big win against Phoenix United.
Yeah, so it's certainly up and about, and yeah, wait and see how we go.
Absolutely. All right, mate, we'll move on to the SANFL. We've had a few more trial games played over the last weekend. Just running through them, North Adelaide defeats South Adelaide at Theberton. 15-13 to South Adelaide 6-13.
My mail as North were very impressive. Certain B. Phillips ran into him on Saturday afternoon. We were just walking. I was walking through at Uni Oval and ran into him, and yeah, he'd gone and had a look. And
yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Eagles defeating West Adelaide 7-10 to 4-9 at Hisense Stadium.
Yeah, I think Westies will be the team to struggle. So. Yeah,
I think we already flagged that a couple of weeks ago. So, Glenelg defeating Centrals 14-4 to 13-2.
Yeah,
some very accurate kicking there.
Yes, a pretty incredible scoreline. 6
points combined between two teams and 27 goals is not a bad effort, not a bad day out. And Sturt defeating Norwood 11-10 to 6-5 at Hisense Arena.
Yeah, Norwood played a lot of kids. Probably, I will be honest, I think Norwood would be a little bit worried on some of those kids. I think they thought they were probably a little bit more advanced. But it's also hard. I think there was probably 12 or 13 out of Norwood's predicted round one side. Mm-hmm. So, depending on injuries, could be 9. It could be, but it would be at least 8 or 9 changes from that. So it was a little bit harder to gauge. Sturt were probably closer to fuller strength than what Nord were, but Sturt moved the ball pretty well. So yeah, they were impressive, but it was hard to work out opposition wise.
Very good test for Norwood against a Sturt side that is going along all right at the moment. I think we've both picked them to be in the top 5, so very, very interesting. Trial matches this weekend. Friday night, we've got West Adelaide playing Sturt.
Yeah, so I think Sturt might have another good run.
Preview of round 1, Nord v the Eagles, but at Theberton.
Yeah, it's interesting that. So,
because normally you don't play someone that you play with in the first couple of weeks of the season. So very interesting that Norwood are playing the Eagles at Thebe.
I thought it was at Richmond, so has it now been changed?
Well, on the SANFL website here, I've got Theberton Oval, 7:40. So Friday night, if you're not at the Adelaide United game and you want to see some SANFL football, then head over to Theberton Oval.
Yeah, I'll check that. Yep.
North Adelaide versus Port Adelaide, Saturday morning, 11 a.m. at Theberton Oval.
That could be a good game, actually. So Port, not many injuries at the moment at AFL level, so you'd say that could be a good hit out.
And they're obviously looking to get some runs in the legs of some players that could be pushing for round one.
Yeah.
Centrals v South out at Elizabeth, ex-Convenience Oval.
Could be a reasonable game. Centrals are really hard to gauge at the moment because they've recruited just so many new players.
Yes.
They're probably just a little hard to follow.
Yep.
So, yeah.
And to finish us off, we've got Glenelg v Adelaide at Theberton Oval, 4 p.m. on Saturday afternoon.
I reckon that'll be a pretty good game as well.
Yeah, I think, again, Crows are in the same boat where they don't have too many injuries at the moment, and we'll be looking to get some game time into some of those players that may be pushing for round one as well.
Yeah.
Very interesting. And then one more trial game the following week. It's just Port v Adelaide at Alberton Oval, so a little bit of a hit out for those players, but with that week off for the SANFL players as well. So, all right, mate, we did say we're going to have a little bit of a look at some of the SANFL clubs, and tonight we'll have a little bit of a look at Central Districts.
Again, as I said, really hard to gauge. Look, getting Jez McClellan back from Gold Coast, I think, is a pretty important pickup. He can seriously play. Mihail Lokowicz or Lokovic, it's good luck.
Yep. Next.
From Stir, I think he's got a bit to offer as well. So I reckon Centrals might take a few weeks to really know where they're at.
They could come out and surprise a few,
Yeah.
But then they could also get touched up a couple of times as well. But I see them sitting around about 6th, maybe 7th for the year, but they're on the build again. I mean, we just we've got to think that they have had a high turnover, so it's going to be interesting.
And their BNF winner Kyle Pressbury from last year hurt his knee against Nord last week, and luckily it wasn't an ACL. Not last week, the week before,
yes.
But he's got serious bone bruising, and so that's always a bit hard to know how many he'll miss from there. And Centrals are saying he's out to at least round 3. Well, as we know with clubs, he's probably out around 6 and 7. So, so that's a big loss for them as well.
Very interesting. We'll stick with Centrals just briefly, obviously out at ex-Convenience Oval there in Elizabeth. Their women's league season at the moment has got off to 2 wins and 1 loss.
Yeah, coached by the illustrious Ben Hunt from Paynham, and so they'd be pretty happy out at Doggies Land with that. And a couple of their juniors from last year on the junior male side of things are looking Dudley and that up and about. So a bit of promise there as well.
Last men's premiership in 2010. 2023, maybe not.
I wouldn't think so yet.
Yep.
But I think they can take a step forward overall for the future.
Yep. And who knows? They might get back to those halcyon days of the early 2000s.
Well, yeah, they certainly dominated the competition. Yes.
They certainly did. All right, mate. And just going back to the SANFLW Indigenous round this weekend.
Yeah. Look, never
good initiative.
Yeah, and it's actually interesting. The Guernseys sell very well overall with club merchandise. I know Nord's got theirs up and about. So I'm all in favour of that side of it, and hopefully some merchandise sales.
Absolutely, and
promote for the good
great,
as well.
Yeah, great initiative, and as I said, it's this weekend. So if you can get out to your local SANFL ground and watch some of those women's matches. Nord have been a bit unlucky in the last couple of weeks with an average loss of about 4 points or 5 points or something like that. So
I'm commentating the West Adelaide and Sturt game, and I certainly know before the next gets a double header there, I know there's a ceremony in terms of Indigenous round.
Absolutely.
They're
Welcome to Country.
At Richmond on Sunday. So, looking forward to it.
Absolutely fantastic. Hopefully get to see some of that online. I won't be there on this Sunday, but I'll certainly be attending a few more games in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, I'll see where I end up to Friday night.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, mate, the tennis. Go for it. So
unsportsmanlike conduct shown by women's players at the Indian Wells tournament.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Donna Vetchik refused to shake hands with her opponent, Lisa Terensko. There was a bit of byplay. This is you shouldn't not shake your hands at the end of the day. We've all had bad days and we've all had shockers, and we've all walked off pretty disappointed. But at the end of the day, not to shake hands, didn't quite sit right. But some fans are saying, well, the byplay and the sportsmanship and all of that had been building up over the last fortnight, and I think Vetchik had enough.
You know what? Doesn't help in the end. That's the key thing in the end. Unfortunately, in 5 years' time, this will then come up again, where you shake hands, it's forgotten about.
Yep.
So a little bit of common sense.
Well, you've got to also remember your role models for younger players.
Yep.
And yes, we don't want little McEnroes running around, and we want little Kyrgioses running around from the ability point of view, but we don't from the disrespectful attitude rolling around. And then we don't want to see players not shaking hands because they've had a little bit of a Barney on the field or on the tennis court in this case.
Couldn't agree more.
Not a great role model, but look, hopefully they can get over that one there, and I don't see them sending each other a Christmas card this year, that's for sure.
No, it's looking quite unlikely. I don't think the postie's going to get overworked with that one.
No, I don't think so either. All right, mate, we're going to take a quick break, and when we return, we've got a very special guest, David Wildy.
Go the Malt.
You're listening to the Game On podcast. We'll be right back after this short break. Past players, past legends.
We welcome aboard David Wildy, North Adelaide, 146 games, 32 goals, life member, former prospect cricketer as well. Sobers Richards Wildy, we'll get to that in terms of a couple of batting trophies at Prospect Land. And, of course, media-wise, where it's more what Wilds hasn't done than done in terms of being around just your casual 31 grand finals.
Is that all?
Yeah, 26 years on AA, now moved over to SEN. And, so welcome aboard, Wilds.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Great to be here. I think you just robbed me of 3 GF, so 34 now. Bit of blighty in that.
Yeah, apologies on that. I admit I was going to check that beforehand. Yes, I should have done
fine.
that.
Damn, Wikipedia doesn't quite give us the accurate results every time. We knew it was above 30 anyway. Yes. Mate, we'll start at the beginning. How did you get into football, obviously, for North Adelaide?
I always loved footy, but I barracked for Norwood for the first
don't worry, I was going to get to that, Wilds.
18 years of my life, and I lived one street on the boundary. I was on the North Adelaide side, played all my junior football at Walkerville. Then I badly broke my leg when I was 15 and playing against some men on a Sunday league, and I missed 2.5 years of football. Went back to Walkerville and under 18s. We won the premiership there, and someone from North Adelaide must have seen me play because they asked me out the following year, and I played under 19s there. And in the early days, I used to play under 19s and go and watch Norwood play. So it took me a long while to get away from the Redlegs, but that's how it started. Basically got picked up from Walkerville. And
state junior sides as well, Wilds. So it was state primary schools with cricket and all that as well. Was footy on the horizon there as well?
Yeah, it was. I used to often have the district, you go to Melbourne. I played at Walkerville and at Broadview and Jeps Cross, Green Acres, those St. Paul's, those sort of clubs, and made a lot of the association sides. But I think cricket early might have been my main passion, but it sort of turned when I got a bit older, joined the Fire Brigade, and it was one had to go, and it wasn't going to be the Fire Brigade, and I had the backing of Mike Noonan, the senior coach at the time, and the rest is history.
I do want to go back to the St. Peter's YCW now with the Adelaide Uni people and people around Adelaide with this one. when Wilds broke his leg, he copped as we know, the most dangerous thing in Adelaide, the RBV, the random Boz Maloney visit. Now, you can, RBT, yes, the fine and lose your licence, but he couldn't get away from Boz.
Yeah, well, it's funny. He's finally convinced me to play him as a Sunday league at the time, and I reckon only lasted a couple of quarters, and a couple of big guys. I was very, very skinny back then. A couple of big guys went from each side of my leg, and it was a really nasty fracture. And in fact, I had my leg in plaster for 9 months back then, and I grew about 5 inches, so it wasn't probably great timing. But Boz came and visited me in hospital and brought chocolates in, and even picked me up, Malcolm. We used to play cards. He used to play cards might have been a Thursday night at St. Peter's, and when you're in plaster and can't get around, it was a really nice gesture. So he sort of looked after me. But, that seems a long while ago now.
2 hours of your life you'll never get back, Will. And casual 99 goals for Walkerville under-18s. Couldn't quite get that 100, Wilts.
No, we kicked in we sort of I got to 99 in the grand final too. I think I kicked 6 in the grand final, which we won in under-18s.
What year was that?
That would have been 1977 or 78. But that year I also played 4 or 5 games for Walkerville seniors and 1 game for North Adelaide under-19s. But we had a very good team back then. It was a great year. The following year went out to under-19s, and Rodney Robin was my coach there. They played me in the ruck, and once again I weighed, I think, 11.5 stone back then.
A bit worried if it was 11.5 kilos.
Yeah, well, I put on about that from that time, but I said to Rodney, I don't think I can do this. I'm not a ruckman, I'm a forward, and after about the 5th round there, he put me to full forward, and we won a heap of games in a row, made the grand final, and this time I got my 100 goals in the grand final. So it was a lucky breaker. We didn't win it. Played against West Adelaide, Grantley Filkey, I think Randall Bennett, a couple of their stars. Filkey kicked 3 goals in the first 3 minutes, and that was basically what they beat us by throughout the whole day. And
then, so admittedly, my first memories of you are cricket, and that side of things. I always rated you really highly with cricket. It's pretty incredible your A-grade district debut. Who do you go out and face, the first bowler you faced?
First bowler I faced was the great Kenneth George Cunningham. I'd actually run him out the previous day, so he wasn't really happy with me. And back then I batted number 7, came out number 7, and KG was bowling his little wobblers. He's actually KG was quite fat back then. I know you're allowed to say fat these days, but he was. Yep. KG would admit it. Yep. I think I made a few runs, not out at the end, and that was my debut. And it's just ironic from that point, we've become friends, for 40 years and worked together for so long. So that was my first A-grade game against Sturt out at Unley Oval.
Do you used to give him a bit of grief on that? Or does he give you a bit of grief on that?
Oh, I'm not sure he remembers. He always makes out you ran me out, you so-and-so, but I'm not sure he'd remember me. But
I agree with you on that one, Wilts.
I remembered him, though, Malcolm. And but he's so belligerent on the field. He was really quite nasty and, swear at the young kids and that. Now he's he's a gentleman off the field. There's no one better than KG. But back in those days, too, we played against guys like Mick Clingley Sr., Clacker Clark I played against as a 17-year-old. Jack Nason, they were all these guys. Back in those days, the older guys, Bob Blewett, they all stayed around and it was a really strong competition. Even the Test cricketers played district cricket back then.
Yeah, so you played Ian and Greg Chappell and that, and it was every side had a couple of older guys who were the teachers, and it was a strong comp. I scored for Kenzie as a kid, so I watched a lot back then, and it was. I think it's that Salisbury side with Bradbrook and Corsby, Zaddo. Geez.
Oh yeah,
Trevor Pearson, Fang Pryor.
Kensington almost had a state side, and that's probably where we might have met, Malcolm. I love playing at Parkinson Oval. Yeah. Sam Parkinson and I grew up together. Basically, we made the state primary school together with Harvey Jolly. That's the first time I set eyes on Sam. And once again, it's amazing. You'd have a friendship right throughout from, basically under 11s to what we are now.
Speaking of Harvey Jolly, I actually played against him in bowls today.
Oh,
There you
Did
go.
you really?
Oh, I did indeed, yes.
the old small Adelaide.
So G'day Harvey and his dad, Bruce Jolly,
Yes.
was our team manager when we went to Sydney to play. I think it might have been 1972 around that time, so a long while ago.
Oh, Bruce was involved for a lot of years with junior sport, and that he was a fantastic contributor in that regard. So let's go back to footy a little bit. Your league debut, round 4, 1980, 5 goals under the coaching of the greatest, and Barry Robin against the Packers.
Yeah, I only got in because Mike Dosner was suspended. I came up and lucky enough to kick 5 goals. I think I kicked 3 or 4 of my first 3 or 4 kicks in league footy, but played the next week, only got 1 or 2, and then Dosner came back and never played again that year. And then, of course, Barry left the club and Mike Noonan came, and that sort of resurrected. He made me believe I could play football, and I basically gave away cricket instantly. And after he came as a coach, and he's right, he played bit like the Jack Oatey school. If they believe in you and they think you can play, they play you.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
And you feel $1 million for them backing you on that.
Well,
Yes.
I did. I mean, I wasn't sure. Back then, I just played footy with my mates. I just enjoyed it. It wasn't really a big deal for me. I played a couple of league games and thought maybe that's all I'll play. But he actually sat me down, and I'll never forget. He said to me, "There's a few people at this club that don't think you can play," but he said, "But I do." Of course, your chest, pumps out. You feel like you're about 8 foot tall, and he said, "I'll tell you what. If you're prepared to put in and give away your cricket," he said, "you've got a big future here, and I'll play you." And I made up my mind because I just joined the fire brigade in that time, doing shift work. Cricket became almost impossible, so I did that. I think at the age of 23, and he played me, and he was a wonderful coach. Had him for the next 7 or 8 years.
Still always wonder how far you could have gone with your cricket. As I said, just scored on that game. You played in the state under 23 at Adelaide Oval, and of course you've always got that famous honour board at Prospect there with Sobers in 61, Richards in 71, Wildy in 81. That's always something you can. Two pretty fair names to associate in that regard, Wilds.
Well, it's funny, and Barry Richards is quite a good friend now too.
Yeah.
But Hooks used to tell that the late David Hooks at Sportsman's Nights, and he said, "What's the difference between the 3 great cricketers?" And they used to say, "Well, Gary Sobers was left-handed," or We've had a lot of jokes over the years, and I think Blewett won it in '92. He didn't quite keep this is Greg Blewett, didn't quite the run going, but I'm very lucky. I mean, obviously Sobers, they say the greatest cricketer of all time. And Barry Richards is as good a bat as I've seen. So obviously way, way better than me. But, to be on the same board as them is quite good.
Did I read somewhere that Sobers rated you as the best?
I know that Joel Garner.
Joel
Garner rated Wilds as the best best batsman he bowled to in Adelaide District Cricket. So that's
I didn't know that.
Yep.
Malcolm told me that, but I made 50 odd against Glenelg when he first came to Australia. He came out and played a district match at Glenelg, and that's the only time I've actually played against Joel. Obviously, that was the year I reckon Malcolm took that amazing amount of wickets too.
81,
81, 82,
81,
wasn't it?
82, I reckon it is.
So I'm going to check that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll never forget him walking out. I was fielding it in the covers, and he walked out. His pads, I reckon, were as tall as most people. He's the biggest guy you've ever seen. I mean, what was he, about 6'8", 6'9", but he seemed bigger than that. Like the biggest pads, and a really nice guy. Like he was a very fearsome bowler, but a very gentle guy. And he sort of made a lot of friends here in South Australia.
Yeah, a lot of female friends too. Don't worry about that.
Yeah, you heard the story, didn't you, Malcolm? He drove the 240Z and he took the front seat out and drove from the back. He was that big. He sat in the back seat and drove the car.
Police Academy style, where Hightower sits in the back seat doing his driving test.
It really was, but what a cricketer he was.
So the footy, and bit of irony there. So the footy wise, your North Adelaide's representative mainly on the KG with the footy show, and that sort of ended up being a big part of getting you into the media with KG, who originally getting you involved at 5DN.
Yeah, maybe it did play a part, but I'm a bit like you, Malcolm. I'm a footy nut. My dad took me to the football when I was 4 and 5, and I could recite every seconds player, from David Shillaby wearing number 22 back in the late 60s. I just knew them, and Damien Nygaard when I was a kid, and I saw Neil Curley break Nygaard's jaw at Norwood Oval. But I had an interest in that and almost a photographic memory. So I think I've always loved that side of football. And for North Adelaide, they put me up as a player's rep to go on the TV and radio quite regularly. And but I always wanted to commentate. It's funny, I never really thought I would, but I always thought I could and wouldn't mind getting a chance. And it's just funny how things open doors and something goes your way and you get a chance. And it's been, 35 years doing it.
What's your favourite memories there, Wilds?
With the commentary?
Yeah.
I think game-wise has been a few. I think the Crows, 97, 98 grand finals. Central District winning their first in the SANFL was outstanding. The bloodbath in 91, North Adelaide and West. I wasn't playing, but I was commentating. But some of the trips away, I spent, as I said, 20 years sitting next to KG. We go to Tasmania and stay at the Grand Chancellor, call a game there, and KG was a bit fond of the old white wine, and I'd have to tuck him into bed at night, and I nearly tripped over the bottles as I walked out. But it's just, and all the friends you make. When I first called, I called with Gary Window, Ian Aitken, Pat Hall. I've called with Hooksy, Ray Fewings, KG, Rowie. You go through Chris Dittmar, you go through the whole lot over a lot of years. And they're all good people in their own way. They're all different, but I think the friendships we've made, Graham Corns as well, of course, and the late Russell Ebert, it's been an amazing journey. And to get paid to do what you love is, there's no better job. I do it for free. I just go there and I just love it. When the ball bounces, you're not sure what's going to happen in the next 10 or 15 minutes. And been lucky enough to see a lot of good games, a lot of showdowns. Over a number of years, you get to see a lot of games. The Crows, Port Adelaide. Yep.
I'll go back to the line for the radio people to paint the picture. I will say the best radio I've ever heard was the Ted Whitten lap. Wilds. I pulled over driving. I was driving. I can tell you exactly. I was driving to Jeps Cross to umpire Jeps Cross from Ferryton Park. So it's incredible that I can remember exactly where I was. And you, Reedy, and KG, it was just it was hard. It was emotional, but geez, you were brilliant.
Well, what happened there? KG, who was a great friend of Teddy Whitten, he couldn't talk. He was just so choked up. So it started with three of us, and Reedy also got a bit emotional. I thought, gee, looking around left and right up at the commentary box of the MCG, and grown men were crying. Just people you didn't expect to be crying. It was when he came around with Neil Curley and he's waving to the crowd and he's blind. He can't see a thing. And yet he's making out he can hear and see everybody. And that, to me, was probably one of the great days of football, Malcolm. Emotion. Yeah. I don't think I've seen a more emotionally charged day than when Teddy came around. And he was Mr. Football over there. Yes. He just loved his Vicks. And, I remember that too. We had that on tape somewhere, but I'm not sure where that is now. But John Reid remembers it. KG certainly remembers it. And it was a really emotional day.
Is there one moment that you've commentated and you've just pinched yourself going, I cannot believe I just called that and seen that? Is there a moment that sticks clear?
There was a showdown I know I felt really good at. I remember the Angus Monfries big off break.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think it was the last year at Footy Park, and the Crows were leading them about 14 points with 3 minutes to go, and Dangerfield missed a shot at the southern end to make sure of it. And I don't know, I just got in the flow then, and everything seemed to come out just right. And we heard that back, and even I got a few sort of tingles listening back. And Port Adelaide got up and won that game. They had no right to in the last couple of minutes. And I think I said Monfries, the biggest off break I've ever seen in my life. I see it, but I don't believe it. It all came out the right way.
Mm-hmm.
Another one was Crows kicked 30 goals, and Chris McDermott were trying to get them up to the 30 against the Bombers, and finally did it with about 10 seconds ago. He said hallelujah, but it was, I think Kenny McGregor might have kicked the goal. But sometimes you get it right. The endings just lately, if there is, you've got to think what result it may be, particularly a big game. It's a grand final. Like in 2017, if the Crows won, you've obviously got to, you're ready to really sort of blow their bags. But it was Richmond, and I was quite happy with even though the Crows lost that game, I think I gave Richmond enough credit because they were awesome that day too. And once again, the words came out pretty well. Sometimes they don't, other times they do. But there's a couple of I think I could mention.
And what about from a SANFL point of view? I mean, obviously you've reeled off 35 of them, so there's got to be a favourite moment there. You've talked about Centrals a bit earlier on. North
Adelaide early winning 91 because they just left a couple of years earlier. That was great because most of those guys I played footy with. And another emotional one was the 2002 when Sturt won under Brent Phillips, and 2 days later the guys are in Bali. I'd gone to America, and I remember being in New York, and no, actually I was in Las Vegas, actually MGM, and I heard that half the Sturt team had been killed, and I thought, you were kidding me. Like, I'm trying to bring people back then and see what's going on. But that was incredible to think that they've gone from pure joy and elation. They lose their team manager, and they use one of their young players, and a lot of people got hurt. And Malcolm, a lot of had scars, not just the physical scars like Julian Burton and all these guys, but mentally they still wake up and just see and hear that noise of the bombing. So that Central District, as I mentioned, unbelievable. But one of the best games, even though it was played in atrocious conditions, was last year's Norwood North. North looked like they had the game wrapped up, right into basically the last 90 seconds. And it was played in awful conditions. It rained mostly. I don't know what the score was, Malcolm, 7-6 or something.
8-11 really to 8-11 to 8-10. I guess I can.
I thought you might know that.
Quote that off by heart.
Well, he's sitting here in front of me with the King Panos T-shirt on right now.
Yes.
Well, but Norwood. I mean, as I said, I sort of had a foot in both camps. Wanted North to win, but Norwood would be next best thing. And the way they came back and the way the guys played the footy in that really tough conditions, I thought, what a credit to the SANFL. And that's got to be up there. When any game goes to the last few seconds, you're not sure who's going to win, and you don't even know when the bell's going to go, the siren. So you're commentating and think you're just expecting to go any time, and when it did, Nord were in front. So even the last one of all the 34, that's right up there too.
17 points down at the 18-minute mark of the last quarter, 8 goals to 5. It's still staggering, really.
And the North Adelaide lad kicked it out of bounds on the full. Any score probably would have won it for him.
Yeah. Yep.
But that's footy.
Yeah.
It is. And Norden Port from a few years earlier, where it was quite tight until the last couple of minutes as well. So there's been some absolute beauties.
There's been some wonderful games. I like calling Centrals because they were so they had such a great side. You mentioned the Gowans boys and Heath Hopwood, Marco Bello. They had a very, very strong side and coached beautifully by Roy Laird particularly. To do what they did in over a decade, I don't think we'll ever see that again. They were just so dominant, and still catch up with the Gowans boys. Now we play golf at Tea Tree Gully together, so they're the best recruits I think ever because they come as a double, 2 for 1.
Incredible. And just their sheer influence on the competition, 9 flags, it's just ridiculous. Well, it's back to your own footy career. So 85, 86, you're playing the losing grand final. You're having your best year in 87. You and I have spoken privately about this, Glenn Goss. It just had to be incredibly frustrating to miss 87.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it's funny, for 20 years I denied I played in it. Now people think I did. I said I got third best and they believe you. But it was about round 19 or 20 and it was behind the play. I know things happen in football, but it didn't have to be done. And he just got me the perfect opportunity. I landed awkwardly, landed on the point of my shoulder. And it was a 16-week injury and I had 2 or 3, so I knew I was gone. But in a way, I think it helped shape my media career. I played the next year and broke my arm, my leg, broke my arm, wrist, and my shoulder. And at the end of that season, KG rang me up and said, "Do you want to come and commentate on football, or just come and go around the grounds? That's what you'll be doing." But he said, "I can assure you that things will open up, and if you start here," and things did open up. Yeah. So 87 was a great year. The boys won it by 15 goals. I could have sat on the bench. I think Mike Armfield and Wayne Slattery did. They got 3 minutes each on the ground. Yeah. So I could perhaps sat there, yeah. But to watch Darren Jarman in full flight and get a bit of payback from the Bay beat us up the previous 2 years, it was great.
Your last game, as it turned out, your last game, a crazy injury. You've broken your arm colliding with Matty Benson's head.
I went to spoil the ball, and I didn't give him my fist. I got him with my wrist, and my arm basically just snapped, and I knew I was in a bit of trouble there, so went off and broken the arm in 2 places. I think I got chalky bones. Now I've had 8 or 9 breaks over the years, and broken just about everything: legs, arms, wrist, shoulder, bone in my back. I played in 86 with a broken bone in my back, and I stood Stephen Copping, and he had been in hospital with an epidural the Thursday, so we sat on the boundary all day. And either of us got near the ball. It was incredible.
And, Wills, you've also been through a lot personally. Look, incredible. You're married to a lovely lady. Jenny, involved a bit, personally, where Jenny was involved with Ben's cricket, at Pembroke and at Payneham. She was a fantastic person. Incredible what she did for your tour, and then Gail and Gail's relationship with both your kids and the openness of what Melissa puts on Facebook, etc. There's certainly some highs and lows there, Wilds.
Yeah, it was 10 years ago on February the 9th, which seems amazing. As I said, sometimes it seems 100 years ago, other times seems like yesterday. And the good thing about Jenny, she'll always stay young. She's only 51 when she passed away, and we got photos still up in the house now, and she looks just so young. And I always got by thinking of the really good times. We're married 28 years and together a couple of years, 2 or 3 years before that. So we had a long association, and she was a great mum, great person. She had 600 people plus at her funeral, which is incredible for it's just bursting at the seams at Centennial Park, and she would have said, "What's the fuss? What are these people doing here?"
But what Jen would have said.
Unbelievable turnout, and I still think about it. I said to Melissa, something good's come out of something bad, because had your mum not passed away, you would not be with 2 beautiful young boys now and a husband in America and living a beautiful life. And I think she can see that, and I said, "Your mum's watching over you. You know what's going on." There's an incredible thing happened. I don't know if I've told you the story, Malcolm. Melissa's wedding was in Hawaii and up in the mountains, and we couldn't get any radio reception. And we're driving through there. She wanted me to show the where we're having it the day before, where the wedding was. Big ballroom at a golf club there. As we get into reception, the song as we went into the golf club was the song that was I chose for her at a funeral, and I had not heard that song. It's by Enrique Iglesias. I had not heard that song since that day. And as we're driving, she's about to get married. The song comes up, and we both looked at each other and said, "You are kidding me." So I said, "See, your mum's looking over you." So yeah, we've just got good memories, Malcolm. I try not to think of anything too bad. It's all good. And now, as you said, I've got a beautiful partner in Gail.
Yeah.
Mate, I have to ask, we know you as Wields, but is there any other nicknames that you've ever gone by?
Go the Malt.
I was called Malt. I don't know why. Malt at North Adelaide. The coach Mike Nennan still calls me Malt. All the footballers do. I was called Ness at cricket, Wilderness, from the Wilderness. And then it was Wilds and Wildo. Probably Wilds is the one that stuck for the longest, but Greg Blott calls me Wildo. Everyone's got different little sayings, but Stephen Rowe calls me the Kenyan. I'm not sure where he got that from. I think in the wilderness. So that's how Rory's mind thinks.
Not that you're running and running and running.
Yeah.
Rory's always different.
Yeah, probably Malt is a footballer, Ness is a cricketer, and Wilds now.
Oh, look, Will, it's absolute pleasure to have you involved. Great, appreciated your friendship, obviously, over the years. And, look forward to being a caller on SEN. Was on with you briefly last night, and it is the issue of concussion with this legal thing, where it's going. Who knows? The end ramifications for that may well be the biggest thing ever in sport. And
it could kill the game.
If
I heard Darren Jarman tonight's. I've never seen Darren knocked out, but he's applying for it too. And if they pay one and they open the floodgates, AFL will go broke.
Yeah,
as simple as that.
I
That's
can't
why
believe
I made the point. I think if you know your young lad is a good footballer and he wants to play, we all know there's a risk. You might have to sign a waiver to say, look, we're aware of the. Sure, if you get king hit or whatever, you can sue that person or sue, but if it's just an accidental knock, look what happened to Jamie Carr. Fell off a horse. She could have died.
Yeah,
boxers, when they walk in the ring, they know they could be killed. I mean, we know there's Phil Hughes got killed by a short ball from Sean Abbott.
Yeah. Look,
there's a risk in everything you do. And that's why I hope all this litigation, I know there's a few lawyers around town that want to jump on the bandwagon, but they'll kill the game because AFL won't be able to get insurance.
Going to go out and sue my car when I drive home in a minute, and that it's crazy.
Yeah.
It is absolutely crazy. I knew it was coming, and that, but I just can't see how people aren't seeing the whole picture.
It's all part and parcel of playing sport. Everybody's had their knocks, and I certainly don't blame, my playing footy for the broken bones and a few injuries. That's we know that there's a chance you could get hurt. I was unlucky. I missed about 50 or 60 league games. I was out. The other guys, Russell Ebert, missed 3. I think one was a poke in the eye. So David Tiller never missed a game. It's luck of the draw.
Yeah.
But my biggest worry is a lot of people jumping on the bandwagon too. There's some genuine cases where people are really not in a good way, but suddenly it's gone from 10 people to 20. I think there's about 150 people now putting their hand up, and that could kill sport. It really could.
I'm afraid, as I said last night, we're becoming a litigious society. We're copying America in so many different ways, and I think people, as we said, we always know, hey, just because you happen to be better at footy. I was limping at a Nord function one night, and Matthew Bartamucci said, "Oh, what have you done?" And I replied, "Hey, Barta, just because you happen to be good at footy and I happen to be shit house, it doesn't mean injuries don't differentiate." And it's, I'm sorry, we all know we can get injured. We all know we can, car accident, etc. And yet we're going to sue at the drop of a hat. No.
And it's not a fair system either. You could have played Pulteney all your life, or Pembroke, or whatever, or Norwood Union, and you could have the same effects and the same knocks, but you've got nowhere to go to sue. Yeah. They've got the AFL to sue, and it's these players that are doing it to each other. Half the concussions are the players that have been involved. They're the reason why they're getting it. I think they've got to take some of their pay, Malcolm, and put it to a fund.
Yeah, I agree.
They get paid so well, so put it towards a fund. And if someone is seriously, and genuinely hurt or got problems or issues or can't work, they can get reimbursed out of that fund.
Oh, look, and I think if there's an incident, let's just use the Tony Lockett one on
Peter Caven.
There was a Peter Caven and the West Coast guy, and that.
No, that was Barry
Hall. Sorry, Barry Hall with that. Yes, that's different again. But I'm sorry, concussion in general, nah.
It's a fine balancing act, and the game is definitely more sanitised now than it has been.
Oh, it is.
And it had to be.
But if you want to play, once again, if you want to play the game, you ask any 17-year-old, do you want to play and risk it? Of course I want to play. This is my dream.
Yeah.
But it's no good 20 years later saying, oh, AFL didn't do enough for me. Right at the moment, they're doing everything to minimise, they've taken all the thuggery out. They've made it far more open in cases. So I don't want to see people just throwing the finger at and pointing the finger at the AFL. I really don't.
Footy collisions are going to happen.
Yeah,
it's as simple as that.
Footy's a collision sport, just
Correct.
like the NRL. You could get hurt going for a mark and taking a specky, falling back on your head. I've seen people knocked out like that.
So you're going to sue
They've landed awkwardly. So just sue
yourself
the AFL for that.
Yeah, or sue yourself. Shouldn't have jumped.
Bad decision.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
Crazy, mate.
Yeah.
All right, mate. We'll get you out on here. We'll get you out of here on this one here. How do you think the Crows and the Port are going to go this year?
I think Port Adelaide might just sneak it in the 8. I'm not as bullish as some people on them. And I sat in with Matthew Nix last week, and they are very keen. They think they'll go forward, and I think they'll win a couple more games than they did last. Maybe get up towards the 10 wins.
Yeah.
But I've said for a long while, I think you'll see the passing of the baton end of year. Port will finish ahead next year. I'm positive the Crows will finish ahead of Port Adelaide. So Port have been up for quite a while. Crows have been down for quite a while, and it's just natural progression if you get players in and a few more draft picks.
Yep.
I think the Crows in a couple of years will be well ahead of Port Adelaide.
Certainly two different recruiting strategies, with Port sort of going with the more tried and true recruits, whereas the Crows have started from ground zero almost.
Oh, let's not forget
Matthew Nix made the point. Matthew Nix said they won't recruit anyone with a birth date after 1997 or before 1997. Doesn't matter who it is. Right. They want players there for 5 or 6 years. So
smart strategy.
That's why Dawson. They got Dawson. They got Keys. They got Rankin. These are the guys they're recruiting in. They've all got to be under 25, and it makes sense, I think, because they've started right from scratch. Where Port are trying to top up, to have another tilt this year.
Yep, very much so.
Mate, we can't let you go without giving you your radio show a plug, so floor's yours.
Yeah, we're on with Monday to Thursday from 6 to 7 with Malcolm Blight. It's on SEN and also Cruise simulcast then, and I'll be also calling the footy on SEN, which it goes right around Australia, and hopefully I can get a chance to do a couple of games in Melbourne. That's one of the reasons why I actually crossed over. So I just want to end my footy calling, perhaps calling a few non-Crows and Port games. I've done many of those years.
That'd be awesome. That'd be amazing.
Yeah, and I think it can be done if I went over there for the weekend. They could give me a game Saturday, Sunday, come back Monday for the show, and I'd really enjoy that. So I'll probably get that organised, at least do 1 or 2 games in Melbourne this year.
I'm sure Gail can have a weekend shopping in Melbourne. She managed to fit that in too, mate.
Yeah, Mum and Dad live there, Malcolm, and they live in Royal Melbourne Golf Course, and her sister's over there. So a couple of my mates, remember Dave Robinson, one of my good mates, he's over there. So I know plenty of people in Melbourne, but yeah, we'd have a bit of fun if we do it for sure.
Yeah, the old fire brigade mates, mate. Yeah.
Exactly.
Well,
exactly.
If Hutchie's listening, put you on the rotation for some of the Melbourne games. I'd be definitely listening for sure.
I just want to prove to the Melbourne boys that South Australians can call footy as well. It's not all about Victoria.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
mate.
I really enjoyed it. You guys keep up the good work, and it was a good chat.
Thank you very much, mate.
See you, boys.
See ya.
Liking this podcast? Please like, rate, and subscribe.
And we've just been speaking with David Wildy, and that was absolutely magnificent, just going through his career, not only from a commentating point of view, but football and cricket and some of the events that he's been involved with, and talking about some of those grand finals was fantastic.
And personal side of life as well.
Yeah,
great chat with Wilds. He's someone whose friendship I value highly. Yeah, he's a good man, Mike.
Absolutely, and we thank him for his time tonight, and certainly be replaying that as part of a special series that we're actually going to be putting together over the next couple of weeks with all the special guests. That will be released on Tuesday afternoons at 12 o'clock, and it'll be just the interviews that we've done. So
beautiful. Please
listen in, and if you see the image come up on your podcast subscribers, please make sure you have a listen to some of those wonderful interviews once again.
And give us a like and a follow, etc.
Absolutely.
Liking this podcast? Please like, rate, and subscribe. Happy days.
Kick off our happy days today. We wish Rory Sloane a happy birthday this week.
He's the ball of energy. So he's back and about this weekend. Look, his experience will help Adelaide direction on the field, that side of things. Yeah, he's done a few couple of coaching clinics with Rory, and he's exactly
as you see him.
Yep.
Drafted in 2008, obviously by the Crows out of the Victorian under-18 system. Played 233 games in 14 seasons, obviously going into his 15th season this year. first real major injury last year for Rory in his career, and he seems to have bounced back reasonably well from it.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah. Yep.
How important do you think he is?
Look, I think he's obviously his best as a player has passed, but just the voice, direction, that side of things, which is always hard to gauge from the outside, and from the inside, very valued. So yeah, look, he will be a one club player, and look, I think they're talking about a wing. So I'm not sure on pace.
That was going to be my next question. If they do and can find a spot for him, where is going to be his best spot?
I'm not really sure. So
I'm a real fan of him sitting on that half forward line and really pinch hitting in the middle, especially when things aren't quite going Adelaide's way and they need that little bit of change of momentum.
Yeah, I'm just not sure. I really not. I was hoping half back as well. I'm just still not sure what his best value is.
Or does he come off the bench as an impact player, get his 10 or 12 minutes and make that impact and then obviously off again?
That's a possibility.
It is. I think Adelaide look like they've got some versatility, especially with a few players. I mean, we talked a little bit about how we thought Duday might be suited into the midfield like a Bontempelli role and Michael Annie then takes Duday's role a little bit if that can work. And then you look at Sloan and Keys, maybe switching on the ball a little bit, Rankin and Rochelle. So there's a bit of versatility there.
Yeah, there is.
It's going to keep a lot of teams guessing.
I think we're at the area where Rankin is going to really help Adelaide is the pressure in the forward line. Just his ability to chase and harass and force that quick kick out of defence instead of the cleaner ball movement, I think will be really important for Adelaide.
Which is where Eddie Betts was so good, and that's why they were, so dominant back there in 2017.
Well, you had a player in Castagna at Richmond who, ability-wise, not nothing flashy, but that was his role, and he did his role brilliantly.
Better than anybody else.
Harass.
Absolutely.
3-time premiership player.
And there you go. This week in 1980, Arthur Ashe retires from professional tennis.
Yeah, certainly one of the greats. Smooth.
Very smooth.
Mover. Very athletic.
Yes.
Yeah, great player.
One of the greats of the Open era and certainly will be remembered for that as well. This week in 1991, basketball, Magic Johnson sets the NBA record for career assists with 9,898.
Mind-boggling, and it's mind-boggling that the stats are done to that extent as well. Yeah,
that's a lot of counting.
Yeah, it's a lot of shoes and socks off. That's for sure.
I'd have to check to see how many games Magic Johnson played, but that's a pretty high average, no matter what way you look at it.
It is,
and he would score plenty too. That's the other thing. So not only is he setting them up, but he's also assisting in them as well.
Mind-boggling.
It is. This week in 1996, the golf, mate, US Masters, the 60th US Masters tournament at Augusta National Golf Club. It was won by Nick Faldo, wins his third Masters and sixth final for the major title for the year, but finishes 5 strokes ahead of Australia's Greg Norman.
I think it was close in the last round too.
Yeah, it was.
Then Greg fell away. Unfortunately, he did that a few times in majors. Yeah, I admit that the Masters at Augusta is my favourite golf tournament. Love the course.
Absolutely. It's just one that you can pencil in each year as can't do a bucket list so much these days, COVID and the cost of travel and everything else with it. But it's certainly on the bucket list to watch and put it on the TV, on the sports channels, and to go from there.
Oh, just the course is just...
It's just magnificent, isn't it? Yeah. Would bend over backwards to get a game, get around there for sure. This week in 1910, so we're really going back a long way here.
A couple of weeks ago.
A couple of weeks ago. We did talk about baseball early on, and I thought we'll chuck this one in here because it's really, really good. And it's a tradition with baseball that has stood the test of time because back in 1910, US President William Taft begins the tradition of throwing the ceremonial first pitch of the opening day of baseball.
And it is incredible that it's kept...
It has.
It's amazing.
I mean, these days they tend to have a special guest before each of the games. It might be a rapper, it might be a singer, It might be an actor, it might be another sportsman of some other sport. But it's one of those traditions that has stood the test of time, and how good is that?
Yeah, no, it is. That's fantastic, really.
And just to finish off on baseball, because I thought this one is very, very important, that in 1997, baseball honours Jackie Robinson by retiring his number 42 for all teams in the MLB.
Yeah, it's certainly it's a magnificent gesture.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I've seen the movie with Jackie Robinson in there, and I'm sure that it's a toned down version of what actually happened. But if half of what happened in that movie is depicted in what did happen in real life, man, this guy had to put up with a hell of a lot of abuse.
Yeah.
And because of that number 42 being retired, there is one day that they actually, every player on every team wears that number.
Okay.
So it's a real honour, not only that they've retired the number from all the teams, but they have one specific day set aside. That is the number that every single player in the league plays for that day.
That's a pretty huge...
Or that round, which is amazing.
And also it's a great way of that.
Recognising.
Therefore, it's not going to get forgotten.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. All right, mate, we'll scoot into the time big finish.
Go for it.
Extra time. Big finish.
And mate, we talked a little bit earlier on with Wilds about the concussion and the legal ramifications, but Geelong Premiership hero Max Rook is leading a new legal action against the AFL for some life-changing injuries.
Yeah, I'm dead against it. It could effectively end football. So I'm a definite no.
The AFL obviously looking to avoid as much of lawsuit as possible, but the initial payout in a similar class action in the US initially paid out more than $1 billion.
Yeah, it's scary of what the potential ramifications are.
All right. Yeah. Moving on to soccer, mate. Adelaide United duo named for some friendlies against Ecuador.
Yeah, so great to see Goodwin and Fucci selected in the 26-man squad. So, yeah, good news.
I think the young fella, the 17-year-old Interdekundo, is certainly absolutely pushing his name for selection. And I think he scored 4 out of the last 5 games that they've played in, and he's come in as an impact player, but he's looking for his first start, obviously, against Wellington Phoenix this week.
He's certainly more than knocking on the door.
26-man squad, obviously, playing in Ecuador in a couple of those friendlies, and you'd expect Goodwin to be there, but the goalkeeper, obviously, Fucci, has been selected as well. So good luck to those guys there.
Yeah.
Basketball, mate. We move on to the basketball. We've got some finals being played at the moment between the
Breakers and
New
the
Zealand
Sydney
Breakers.
Kings.
Breakers, yes.
And when we started the show, New Zealand were actually 11 up at one stage, but in the last minute, 48 seconds to go, Sydney 75, the Breakers 69. So you would think the Kings will hold on from there.
We'll watch that one with interest, mate. We will watch that one with interest. Now, tonight, SANFL, this one had to be added to the run sheet right at the last minute. But tonight, a new SA state coach has been announced.
And good luck to the great man, the reigning premiership coach, Jade Twig Rawlings.
Yes.
Good luck, Twig. All the best.
Absolutely. An assistant coach last year, if I believe, for the state team as well. So stepping up into the main role this year. And we wish him the best of luck, not only with Norwood, but obviously with the state game, which is going to be played as a curtain raiser to one of the AFL games in June, I believe, somewhere in there. So we wish them a lot of luck, but we'll also talk about that a little bit more as we get a little bit closer.
Move further along.
Closer. All right, mate, we've had a huge episode tonight. Once again, we thank David Wildy for his time and giving us some insights into his career as a footballer and a cricketer. And
a commentator.
And the commentator. And we've covered almost as much sport as we possibly can tonight.
We've certainly covered it. We certainly went a few different directions. We'll certainly have another crack again next week.
We've brought it all back, and as usual, we promise to do better.
Thanks, mate.
In this crazy world we live in, we all need the distraction. Enjoying the show? Like, rate, and subscribe. Hook up and connect with us on social media at Sportscast SA. We'll see you next time on Game On.